Chapter 14, Ground Zero. Grandpa JJ, do you know where you're going? Jimmy asked, looking out the window at the stars popping out in an evening sky which had slowly been changing from a crimson blue to deep purple. He turned and looked over at the sphere floating silently in the seat beside him, wondering what places it had been to before and what places would it go to after this. Jimmy, I need your eyes again up the road here, said Grandpa JJ, momentarily interrupting his thoughts. Sure, Grandpa, what am I looking for? A sign that will have on it something like Stallion Gate. If you see that, let me know, okay? Sure, Grandpa. Jimmy looked out the front window, carefully watching the road ahead. There were no lights anymore in the distance, only the blackness of the open desert and whatever was lit up by the vehicle's headlights directly ahead of them. I think I see a sign up ahead. Good, I'll slow down a bit. What does it say? WSMR Stallion Gate. Jimmy read the sign. Good job, Jimmy, that's it. Grandpa JJ turned the SUV off the highway and continued south following the signs. Does WSMR mean Grandpa? Jimmy asked. White Sands Missile Range, Jimmy. This is where my friend Allen and I worked during the war. Not very far from here was a ranch house called the McDonald Ranch, where a bunch of us spent months putting together all the equipment for the gadget, as they called it. You mean the bomb? That's right, but no one called it a bomb. It was called the gadget. A lot of folks didn't want to know any more than that, they were afraid to ask. And those who did know just how powerful it was, well, they didn't want to think about it, I guess. Did you know what it was? I had a pretty good idea, Jimmy. There were reports of a few guys who worked with the team developing the warhead getting sick, radiation sickness they called it. And well, some of them died or we never saw them again. Grandpa, do you think we'll ever, well, use a bomb like that again? I certainly hope not, Jimmy. Grandpa JJ thought quietly for a moment. You know, Jimmy, I wasn't that much older than you when I was working out here. I was standing in a room not far from here when they detonated it. Damn thing lit up this whole sky for miles across this whole valley. Suddenly another voice was heard from. If devices such as those were ever used again in anger, they could mean the potential end of human existence, Jimmy. Reevan's voice softly explained. You see, all the races that we've encountered in our travels have gone through the same dilemma, Jimmy. They all reach a point in time where they must make a choice. Your race is now at that point in time, said Reevan. Jimmy looked at the sphere and then at his Grandpa JJ. What choice do you think we'll make, Grandpa? Jimmy quietly asked. Hunter guided the helicopter through the sky as gracefully as a dancer on ice. In some ways Hunter missed the freedom and release of flying, in other ways he didn't miss it at all. Hunter, are you okay? Stevens asked from the back of the chopper. I'm great, Alice, thanks, replied Hunter. Okay, Colonel, we are approaching the outskirts of Socorro. What are we looking for here? Schmidt looked around the sky for a few moments, getting her bearings. We are looking for Interstate 25 to the east of the city. Follow it south for a few miles. We'll need to get a little lower so I can see the road, okay? Schmidt asked. This would have been the route the agents who were taking the Thompsons to Holloman Air Force Base would have followed, shouted Schmidt. In a few moments Hunter was banking the helicopter slightly and dropping altitude as he found and followed the interstate. Good, good, Schmidt continued. Get lower and slow down a little bit, you're going too fast, she ordered, as Hunter continued to drop altitude. Hunter quickly glanced at Schmidt and grinned. Well, then you'll have to excuse me if I accidentally take out a few telephone poles, he joked. A few moments later Schmidt saw something on the highway ahead. You see that? She asked Hunter. There's something on the road. Sorry, Colonel, I'm just a little too busy right now to be sightseeing. Right there, she pointed down. What's wrong with that picture? It was her turn now to joke a little. You see that? She laughed a little, for guys in dark suits walking around a black SUV. I see them now, Hunter chuckled. You think they might need a lift, huh? Hunter asked as took the Huey down and landed near the four men. Immediately they noticed the helicopter and ran towards it. The first agent saw Colonel Schmidt as she stepped out of the chopper. "Colonel, I'm Agent Joel Pacheco with the FBI, are we glad to see you?" he said. Pacheco. Schmidt thought for a moment. "Weren't you the guys who were supposed to be transporting the Thompsons over to Holloman Air Force Base for a briefing with the general?" "Yes, Colonel, we were," he answered. "Well, what happened to you, and where's your other vehicle?" "We don't know, Colonel. 1 minute we're heading down the freeway here, next minute we're waking up passed out on the side of the road," Pacheco explained. "Where did the Thompsons go?" "I don't know, Colonel. When we came to, they were already gone. However, we believe they may have had help," Pacheco explained. "One of our agents thought he saw them leave in a car to the south, and," he paused a moment. "They also took off with one of the other SUVs, and the other vehicle here, well, they took our keys and ripped out our ignition wiring," Pacheco explained, looking close to a nervous breakdown. "And to top it off, our radios aren't working at all." "Weren't you supposed to have police escorts too?" asked Schmidt. "Yes, but we dismissed them the moment we were on the freeway. We didn't need them anymore," said Pacheco. Colonel Schmidt almost laughed but resisted the urge, considering Agent Pacheco seemed pretty frustrated with his efforts. "We don't have enough room for all of you in this chopper, however we will call for another chopper for you guys as soon as we clear the area. We also seem to be having the same sort of radio interference blocking our communications." Pacheco looked back at the rest of his team who were walking towards the chopper. "No problem. Thanks, Colonel, we'll be fine. I think we'll stick around here and try to get this vehicle started up again. As soon as you clear the interference, if you would please let them know our status." Pacheco turned back to his team to fill them in. "Okay, will do." "Good luck," said Colonel Schmidt, climbing back into the chopper. "Well? What's the story here?" Hunter asked, as Schmidt climbed back into the chopper. Schmidt shook her head in disbelief. "I don't know exactly what's going here, but these Thompsons must be pretty resourceful men to pull this off." She glanced at Hunter to get moving again. "Well guys, we're off to the Trinity site. I hope your hunch is right, Drake." She glanced at Drake and Stevens, who were strapped in the back seat, then glanced down at her watch. 19:08 hours, it read. "Get your equipment ready, Drake. I have a feeling that this is going to get interesting," yelled Schmidt. "Do you have any idea where we're going, Rodney?" Marlene asked as they sped down the highway. "We are looking for an exit up ahead on the right, that will say something like, Missile Range or Trinity Site, or," he continued, looking out the front window in the dark as the next sign came closer to view. Rodney then squinted to see the signs better. "Stallion Gate," he shouted. "That's it, Marlene, turn here," barked Rodney. Marlene turned the vehicle onto the road following the signs. Leanne, Seth, and Bobby read the letters aloud as they passed. "WSMR Stallion Gate." "What does WSMR mean, Dad?" Seth asked. "White Sands Missile Range," explained Rodney. "What? You mean they're going to be shooting missiles at us?" asked Leanne, anxiously. "No, Lee, this is part of the old site Grandpa JJ used to work at during World War II. Trinity is where they detonated the first atomic bomb," Alex explained. "I guess they chose this site because it's so desolate," said Alex, looking out the window. "So, you guys are telling me that this alien sphere just talked to you, and told you where they were going to be coming to pick up the sphere, and for you to just meet them, out here?" Marlene asked. "That's right," said Alex. "And Grandpa JJ and Jimmy are somehow connected with it?" she asked. "I guess so, at least that's what we understood." "Well, of all the crazy things," Marlene shook her head. "You guys better come up with a better story than that, and really quick, because it looks like we are going to have to stop up ahead." Marlene motioned to the sign on the side of the highway. As they approached the gate, they saw a large sign that read WSMR Stallion Gate, proof of entry required. As Marlene slowed the car down to stop at the gate, they noticed a flurry of activity as several men were running back and forth between the gate buildings. "Hey, did you guys see that?" exclaimed Seth. "Look at the fence ahead, it looks like someone just tore through here and knocked everything over." Suddenly one of the guards noticed the car stopped at what used to be a gate and ran over to them. "I'm sorry ma'am, this entrance gate is closed, and you'll have to go around to the main gate or come back tomorrow when we open in the morning." The young man at the gate was obviously a little distracted by other matters. Marlene thought for a second, waiting for Rodney or Alex to speak up and say something, but they were quiet. "Great," she thought to herself. "It's up to me, I guess." Marlene stuck her head out the window and shouted. "Sir, we are looking for someone that may have come through here just a few minutes ago. Did you let anyone else through this gate recently?" The guard turned back quickly towards the car yelling loudly, "Ma'am, I told you, this gate is now closed." The young man began to repeat the same message as before when suddenly everything went dark as they lost all electrical power. "Grandpa, I can't believe you just ran the gate over back there," said Jimmy, as he looked admiringly at the sphere floating next to him. "Luckily Reevan cloaked us, I was afraid they were going to start shooting at us." Jimmy shrieked. "We should be getting pretty close now, Jimmy, just a few miles from here," said Grandpa JJ as he continued hellbent down the old road. Jimmy was looking out the window at the darkness before him, wondering what it must have looked like when they detonated the original atomic bomb so many years before. He wondered how he would have felt if he had been alive to see it. The paved road that his grandpa had been traversing earlier was suddenly replaced with a bumpier dirt road as Grandpa JJ continued pressing on towards the Trinity site. Looking out the window at darkness just beyond the lights of the SUV, the only thing he saw was an occasional jackrabbit running across the road and escaping into the dark night through the small bushes. "You know where we're going to, right, Grandpa?" Jimmy asked. "Yep, it's been a few years, but I know the way, Jimmy," said Grandpa JJ as he suddenly turned off the dirt road, plowing headlong through a small fence. "Hold on, Jimmy," he hollered to Jimmy as he sharply turned the wheel. The large SUV jumped around like a bucking bronco for a few moments as Grandpa JJ gingerly maneuvered around some ditches and fences, before finally reaching a clearing that had been smoothed out. It seemed to Jimmy that they had reached a large parking lot of some sort. "What's this, Grandpa?" he asked. "This is where we get out and walk, son, then we watch and wait," explained Grandpa JJ. "Be sure to grab your backpack, Jimmy, and bring that sphere." Grandpa JJ reached down and turned off the motor of the SUV, leaving only the headlights on to help guide their way ahead in the darkness. He looked at his watch. 7:15 it read. "Okay, Reevan, the moment of truth has arrived," he thought as he gazed up into the dark starlit sky. Hunter was struggling with the controls of the Huey as he noticed the winds had begun picking up. "Colonel, I'm really having a rough time with this. The winds are really getting nasty outside," said Hunter as he continued working with the controls. He reached up momentarily and adjusted his goggles. "I'm really glad you had these night vision goggles. I haven't used these in a long time, and they've gotten so much better than what we used in Somalia," said Hunter. "We should be coming up on the gate to the missile range," shouted Colonel Schmidt as she looked back and forth between her navigation display and the window of the cockpit. "Start making a turn due south, at a heading of 160 degrees. But watch your altitude, Hunter, keep it around 6,000, you got that? We don't want to wind up plowing into the side of one of these little hills out here to our right," she hollered. "Roger, got that," said Hunter, looking out over the land below through his night vision goggles. He thought for a moment he saw the guard's shack near the stallion gate, and then he thought he saw beams from what looked like two flashlights shining in and around the guard's shack. "Are you catching that activity down there?" he hollered toward Schmidt. "Yes, I am." "Take this thing down quick, Hunter. Drop us in right near the gate, I'll hop out and see what's going on," she said. "It looks like they may have lost power." Hunter brought the chopper down on the highway behind the gate, setting it down easy in the darkness as Schmidt jumped out. A startled guard came running out into the darkness towards the chopper, waving a flashlight around. "Excuse me, this is a restricted area. Do you have..." "Oh, my God." He stopped short as he recognized the uniform. Immediately he stood at attention with his flashlight at his side. "My apologies, Colonel, sir, it's been a strange night." Schmidt pulled off her helmet. "At ease," she said, as she returned the salute, gently lowering her hand. "Tell me, what's been going on around here and what happened to the power?" "Well, Colonel, it's been crazy. About 18:30 this evening, we had a general alert go out, and then the next thing we know, we started losing our communications, he explained. Then about a half hour later, the strangest thing happened. We heard something huge come crashing through these gates. But, sir, he paused. You're not going to believe this. When we stepped out to look and see what happened, we couldn't see a damn thing. It was like it was invisible or something, the guard reported. Go on, said Schmidt. Well, Colonel, the next thing we know, some ladies pulling up to the gate in a car full of people, while we're still trying to figure out what the hell just happened. He paused again, realizing what he said, and she's asking us if we had let anyone come through the gate recently. Well, Colonel, we were so rattled we couldn't tell her what the hell we saw, if anything, said the guard, stopping to catch his breath. Next thing I know, all our lights and power went out, and then that lady in the car, she just stepped on the gas, and she took off like a bat out of hell. He pointed south, heading that direction. Thank you very much for your report. Why don't you gentlemen go ahead and do what you can to straighten this mess up, said Schmidt, motioning to the smashed-up fence. And I'll radio in for some assistance for the two of you as soon as we can get through to base. Sound good? Yes, sir, he answered, saluting. Schmidt saluted and put her helmet back on her head and climbed into the chopper again. As soon as she was strapped in, she motioned to Hunter to get going. Let's move out to Trinity, Hunter. It's just a few minutes from here, said Schmidt. Hunter took the chopper gently up into the evening sky, being careful to watch for the hills around them. He brought it back on course using the highway below him as a guide. Just follow this road, Hunter, keep a southeast heading. See the runway to your left, keep straight, said Schmidt, watching out the window to guide Hunter. Now, follow this road for a few miles and you'll come to a group of buildings on your left at an intersection. Take that intersection and head due east. Got it, replied Hunter, concentrating on the road. Wait a minute, it's curving around here. There we go, I think. Yeah, now I see the buildings, he said. Good going, Hunter. You're a pretty good pilot, you know that? You may be in the wrong business. Schmidt joked. Hunter gave her a chastising glance. That's okay, I like my job, he joked, as he gently guided the chopper around to the east. Marlene, may I say you're doing a wonderful job of chauffeuring us all tonight, commented Alex from the back seat. There was silence for a moment, broken with laughter, first from Marlene, then from Seth, Rodney, and the two girls. Thanks a lot, Alex. You know, I just couldn't think of a better way to spend a Sunday evening, she joked. The laughter continued for a moment as Rodney was still trying to find his way in the darkness. I think there's another turn coming up, Marlene, said Rodney, breaking the mood for a moment. He motioned for Marlene to turn off the paved road onto a dirt road that curved around to the east. Grandpa JJ took me out here one time years ago. I think I was in high school still. Alex had already left for basic training, you remember that? Rodney glanced back to Alex. I sure do, that must have been the summer of '88 then, said Alex. You were probably about 16 then, Rodney. Dad, are you going to take us out here someday too? Asked Seth. In the daytime, I mean, when we can actually see where we're going, he added as the others chuckled. Nope, sorry son, I'm afraid this is your one big trip out here, said Rodney. As they continued a little farther up the road, Marlene thought she saw a light shining up ahead of them off in the darkness. Rodney, do you see a light over there, or am I just imagining things? She asked. Rodney looked in the direction she was pointing, again squinting to get a better view. Damn, he thought, time to get my eyes checked. Yeah, I think I see it, about a mile up to the left, said Rodney, as he continued to get better view of the source of the light. It looks like a vehicle is just sitting out in the middle of the desert with its lights on, mumbled Rodney. Could it be Grandpa JJ and Jimmy? Asked Seth. Everyone paused and looked at each other. Step on it, Marlene, they all shouted. Grandpa JJ and Jimmy had been walking for several minutes as they reached a fenced area. They followed the fence for a short distance until they found an opening and then continued on. They were nearly beyond the range of the SUV's headlights, when JJ stopped suddenly. You feel that, Jimmy? He asked. What's that, Grandpa? You mean that weird feeling like your hair is standing up? Asked Jimmy, realizing he was also beginning to sense something strange. What is that? I'm not sure, Jimmy. It could be that this cold night air is getting us chilled a bit, said Grandpa JJ. Jimmy, take the sphere out of your backpack, suggested Grandpa JJ, looking down next to him as Jimmy already had it out of his backpack. He must have sensed the same thoughts I just did, thought Grandpa JJ. They watched, as the softly glowing sphere rose into the night, high above their heads until it stopped and hovered. Suddenly the light began to intensify until it lit up a large area of desert all around the two of them. Reevan, what's happening? Asked Jimmy, shouting over the wind which had started to pick up in the last few minutes. Don't worry. You are just experiencing the side effects of a large magnetic field. It will continue to intensify, but you will be okay, said Reevan, as the light emanating from the sphere continued to intensify. Magnetic field from what? Asked Grandpa JJ. Look up, Grandpa, the stars in the sky, they're all disappearing, said Jimmy, looking up into the blackness of the sky above their heads. No, Jimmy, they're not disappearing, they're just being blocked, said Grandpa JJ. Blocked by what? Asked Jimmy, suddenly hearing a voice boom from behind him. By one hell of a big ship, said Alex. Dad, how did you find us? Asked Jimmy, as Alex greeted Grandpa JJ and Jimmy with a hug. We thought you were still with the agents back on the freeway. No, lucky for us we woke up before they did, and Alex motioned behind him to the others to catch up. Your Aunt Marlene, she gave us all a lift out, he explained. Alex then turned and looked apprehensively up at the sky. Hey everyone, it looks like we got company, he said. There was something descending from the sky all right, but it was no alien spaceship, it was a large helicopter, and it looked like it was about to crash right on top of them.
You've been listening to The Thompson Sphere by David E. Farmer, also now available on Amazon's Kindle. Hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more chapters coming soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.